Nathaniel Bandy. Striving for originality.
Alright guys, so if you haven't seen my original Splattershot Jr. video, I highly recommend that you watch that first, because this custom Splattershot Jr., which I'm now going to refer to as the CSR, please watch that video first, as that is the video that mainly talks about the gun. The specs are exactly the game, the gun is exactly the same, there's only a few tweaks that I want to talk about in this weapon. Anyway, without further ado, let's talk about the CSR. So the range, attack, and the rate is all the same. Range is 32, attack 32, and the rate is 75. However, the sub and special weapons are different. The sub is a Disruptor, and the special is an Echolocator. The gun also has a different aesthetic design, but it doesn't really change the way that the gun works. So I want to talk about how this gun plays with these new sub and special weapons. That's the main goal here. And let's just say, man, this thing really just is not very useful. The main problem is that you're very defenseless with this weapon. The CSR has very terrible sub and specials. They just do not defend you. The problem with the CSR is that the range is so short, and neither the sub or the special weapons allow you to defend yourself if you're in trouble with this weapon. Now I'd like to talk about why it is pretty much only useful to support your team. Now first off, the Disruptor can be used to help a teammate out, but not so much yourself. So here's the thing, let's say that you're running around with someone or squidding around with somebody and they're having trouble at killing somebody. If you throw a Disruptor at that player without actually trying to go for them, it's going to help your teammate out because it's going to slow them down and it's going to help them get that kill. But the thing is, if you use the Disruptor on a teammate that you're trying to kill, it's really not going to make that much of a difference because with the CSR, your range is so short that you can try to move, but the thing is, they don't really need to move to be able to attack you and kill you. So it's really just a big problem. The main thing that you should do is to try to play stealthy. If you can play stealthy and just use your Disruptor without other opponents noticing you, then you're gonna be okay, but that's really all you're useful for. I would also focus on filling up the Echolocator, because kills just aren't worth going for. You want to use this Echolocator to help out your opponents, and honestly, that's all you're really useful for. Now I'm gonna briefly talk about the other modes, but let's just be real. Only use the CSR if you're in a big team with highly competitive players. So for Splat Zones, I've noticed that you can spam the Disruptor and it can help you hold down any maps with just one zone. Now I say that because if, let's say for example, you're playing, I don't know, the warehouse or something like that. If you spam the Disruptor on the other team, it's going to make it very difficult for them to take the zone back, so I would recommend doing that. The Echolocator can also be very helpful to find opponents in zones. So if you're playing on a map with multiple zones and opponents are just kind of camping inside your home zone, it's very useful to use the Echolocator to spot them. Now let's cover the tower control. The Disruptor can help keep enemies off the tower. So if you're on the tower and you're trying to hold it, just continue to spam the Disruptor all over the place. That's going to make it very difficult for your teammate to either jump or move around and try to take access of the tower. This makes it a little bit easier for you to keep it hold. Now one thing that does kind of stink is that throwing the Disruptor on the tower full of enemies doesn't really help you. And it doesn't help because the enemies don't need to move. They don't need to jump around, and that's all the Disruptor is really useful for. It slows down your opponent and it also makes the jumping much shorter. But the thing is, the Disruptor is just not that useful on this map. Now let's talk about the Rainmaker. Now using the CSR and Rainmaker really isn't that great. The only thing that I could really figure out that can be helpful is using the Disruptor to support the Rainmaker. Now what I'm saying is, if someone else has the Rainmaker and they're trying to make progress to get to the other team's side, you can use the Disruptor to slow down opponents, because that way, not only will you be able to shoot at them, but at the same time it makes it a lot easier for the slow charging Rainmaker to hit opponents that are in his way. So out of all the game modes, I'd recommend using the CSR on Turf Wars, but you need to be on a competitive team, or you need to be on a team that's able to communicate with each other. So I'd like to give a quick shout out to Nintendo. If you've never heard of Nintendo, he's a Splatoon channel and he helped me out come up with notes and advice for using the CSR, so thank you. Make sure to either like this video or dislike it. Either way, I'm okay with that. Please leave a comment and tell me, what weapon should I grade next? I would love to know. And don't forget, hop on that bandwagon. Make sure to follow my Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Tumblr. Look at that train go. I will see you all later. Have a great day, everybody.